Hello and welcome to 4000 and Counting, brought to you by Hurricane E-Bikes. I'm Watty, this is Mark, and we are joined by, GB's stud defenseman, Nat Halbert. He helped us gain promotion to the top pool and is going to be there taking on the big dogs with us next year. But not only that, he's heading over to Mark's neck of the woods. He's going to be playing for Innsbruck, is it, Mark?
Innsbruck.
Innsbruck. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm not a names guy. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to 4000 and counting, Nathaniel Halbert. Nat, thanks for joining the show, bud.
Yeah,
No
welcome.
worries. Thanks for having me on.
Well, first of all, congratulations. The GB gold medal. First time for you being a part of the squad, and what a moment to be on home ice and get promoted and, well, give yourself an opportunity to play in that group next year in Prague. Jeez, that's some group.
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty cool first tournament to get the host, to win gold, gain promotion. That was, the city I was born in, so lots of family there that got to come and watch. And then, like you said, kind of get to go into an exciting group, we'll say, for next year. So it was, pretty good first experience with the GB colors.
Point of game as well. That's not bad, eh?
Yeah, teammates helped with that. Teammates definitely helped with that.
That's a good answer. You said there that you're actually from Nottingham. Those that don't know, and fans that probably never been on Elite Prospects might not know this about you, but you're born in the UK. Can you kind of give us a bit of a background of how you ended up moving to North America and then coming back and being eligible, obviously, to play for GB?
Yeah. Well, my dad's from just outside of Glasgow, Ayr. My mom's was based in Nottingham, so they met in Nottingham and had me and my brother, and then my dad got a work opportunity over in Canada. So took it for 2 years, and we were meant to come back after the 2 years, and then two turned to four, and things were going pretty well. So it's been whatever 25, 26 years now that we've been in Canada. So it's kind of, I guess, my new home. What I've known as my whole life as my home, but all our family's still back in Nottingham, and we always would go back every year to visit. So that's kind of how we moved over there. Then how I came back to play was obviously had the chance to play for Great Britain because I had my passport and was born here, and didn't want to turn something like that down, especially when you get a chance to represent your country at the top tournament in the world.
Did you get your first taste of hockey in the UK in Nottingham, or was it when you moved out into Canada?
Yeah, no, I think I was a year old when we moved, so it
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah, it was kind of the my dad was pushing football on me, and me and my brother both wanted to get into hockey, which is what everyone was playing here. So that's kind of I played both growing up, but picked hockey.
How's that for your parents then? Because obviously, as you say, traditionally they're from the UK. They're gonna want you to play football or rugby or something, like a UK based sport. Unless you're, like my dad played ice hockey, so for me, it was natural to follow on. But for your parents being like more like football background, then you move to North America, more so Canada, which is a national sport. Is your old man stood at the side of the rink like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, we're trying to figure it out, or like, how do you boys
Yeah,
end up getting that round to the parents?
I think it was probably my older brother who, heard guys at school talking about it, so he wanted to try it. And then obviously I want to do it. He wanted to do, and but it was definitely a learning curve for my parents. There's the stories of them trying to get us dressed, and the shin pads are going on the arms, and elbow pads are going on the legs, and just making an absolute mess of it. And other parents having to come over and help us out to get dressed. So it was a learning curve for all of us, but it's been a great journey for our whole family, kind of learning the sport and it becoming a big part of our lives.
What got you interested in becoming a defenseman, and what was the team that you grew up liking, and was there a particular idol that you modeled your game around?
Um, so why I became a defense, I started out as a centerman, and quickly learned that I wasn't very good at scoring.
Yeah.
So my coach kind of figured I was a decent skater and put me back on D so I could skate a lot, but the scoring touch was lacking when I was young. So that's how I became a defenseman.
What sort of
The
age
other
did you make that switch over from forward to D?
maybe eight.
Oh, okay, so very young.
Yeah, very young, very young. So I've been a defenseman pretty much my whole life, I guess. But I tried a couple years trying to be, the glory goal scorer, but it didn't work out. But in turn, my favorite team on growing up in Toronto, so obviously love the Leafs. But um, my minor hockey team was called the Stars. So I turned to the Dallas Stars, and I was a big fan of them. And Mike Modano was kind of my you know, the guy I looked up to, and kind of I took number 9 and wanted to be a bit like him, even though I was a defenseman. So I would say that was kind of my team and my role model, especially when I was young.
If you're around about that sort of time, was Zubov there then?
Zubov, I think he was. I think
What a
he was, but I
savage of a
mean,
D man that guy was. Jeez.
yeah,
He could
yeah.
thread the needle from absolutely anywhere, eat minutes, smoking darts in between the periods and everything. Like, just got iron
Yeah.
lungs, man. It's phenomenal. You obviously you were a D man growing up playing minor hockey in Canada. What age did you start to go, yo, we're getting pretty good at this thing here? Was it like bantam or midget, or was it even before then?
Um, it's a good question. I guess I was always at the top in the top division. AAA is kind of what we call it here.
Yeah.
But then there's a draft to the OHL, which Liam Kirk obviously went into and did well there. But I got completely passed over in that draft, so I kind of that was about age 15. So I maybe thought maybe hockey isn't for me at the age of 15. So I thought maybe I'll just get an education out of it and then be on my merry way. I've had a lot of fun, but things have lined up and fallen into place for me, and it's it's been phenomenal that I've been able to play this long, and through injuries and kind of setbacks, I take every year as a bonus, and I'm not going to take any for granted. So when I really thought that this is something I'm going to be good at, I don't know if I've ever really you know had that moment where I'm like, let's go for it. I just kind of go year by year, and seem to keep doing better and better. So can't really complain too much about how it's gone.
When you're getting your opportunity, obviously you played in the Ontario Junior Hockey League.
Hmm.
What did you think? Maybe you were going to get up to the O. I know. In the end, you ended up going to the Q. But when you were in the Ontario Junior Hockey League, did you think potentially you was going to get called up? Was that ever a possibility?
It was never. It was always a dream, but it was never talked about. No one ever approached me, so I kind of focused on maybe going NCAA and trying to go that route because that was a lot more common once you get passed over in the O. Um, so yeah, I mean, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I went to an NCAA showcase, and then the head coach and GM, Joel Bouchard from a Q team, was there watching and kind of invited me out. So it wasn't even like I was trying to go there.
What was your first experience like going to Quebec to play? Because obviously they do speak a lot of French there. Are you French speaking at all?
I mean, I've had to pick it up, and I think I was there for 9 years in total between school and junior and pro. But I definitely should be a lot better at it than I am. But yeah, the first experience there was kind of, where am I? What am I doing here? Everyone's speaking a different language. I'm the random English guy from Ontario here, so it was quite eye opening to walk into those dressing rooms and kind of have to try and play hockey and be the odd one out almost.
It's a pretty tough league as well, huh?
In terms of like tough guys.
Just physicality and just talent.
Yeah, I mean, the Ramparts just won the Mem Cup. Um,
Yeah.
the Q always kind of, does well at those events. So I think it's a slept on league compared to the OHL and WHL, but there's a lot of talent, and a lot of those, East Coast boys are, there's some big boys out there, almost like the West big farm boys you think of, but you get these East Coast boys, and they're pretty big and physical and like to run around and mix it up. So yeah, it was definitely a lot more of a physical league than I was expecting it to be.
Your second year in the Q, you got to wear the A on your jersey. Obviously, you went on to end up wearing the C in Coventry. Fuck's sake. The C in Coventry. Was that like the first like kind of appetizer for you getting to wear a letter and something you like a responsibility you enjoyed?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I was surprised when I got the A in my second year. Um, you know, it's being the English speaking guy and all that stuff, and not that old, so I was surprised I got it. But you try not change anything, but at the same time, you do need to be more of a leader and have a bigger role. So it's kind of trying to find that balance of being what what kind of player you are and who you are in the room, and not changing that, but also stepping up into a bigger role. So, each time, like I said, I think the next year I was the captain there, and then I was a captain at McGill as well, and then at Coventry. So each time you kind of get a letter on your chest, you look back at all the mistakes you made wearing letters previous times, and you try and learn from them, and help younger guys pick up other guys when they're down, challenge guys who can be better. So it's always a learning process, and I like to think that I was maybe the best captain I've been this past season, but if I ever get a chance to wear a letter again, I'm gonna, look at the mistakes I made and try and be even better. So it's kind of like a continuous journey of, being a leader and being better and helping your teammates be the best they can be.
You got to play with some international players for your time in the queue, Latvian, Swede, a Finn. What was it like getting to mix with all the Euros over there? Because all the Euro boys tend to have a good time.
Yeah, the Latvian Nikita, we were probably best friends on the team. We got on really well. We play FIFA all the time together because we lived close, and being some of the guys that don't speak French, you kind of migrate towards each other. So I've often got on well with all the Europeans that come in. So they're most of them like football, most of them like hockey, and those are two easy things to kind of draw on and make a friendship over, and you kind of just let it run from there.
Throughout your tenure, the 3 years you were in the queue, 3 or 4, whatever it was, who were the best players you were playing against from that era? Because you was there from 2013 to 2016.
16.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
who were the kind of guys that stand out for you?
Yeah, we had Jonathan Drouin, Ehlers, Timo Meyer, Anthony Mantha, Sam Montembeau. Was a big one. Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, he's sick.
Actually, even like Barbashev in the Cup Finals, Carrier in the Cup Finals. Right now, I think there was someone else on Florida that used to play in that league. But yeah, just names like that. Just missed McKinnon by a year, so that would have been kind of cool to get to play against him. But
well, maybe next year if Colorado go tits up before the end of April, you might see him out in the World Champs. Who knows?
yeah, it is funny now. Now you kind of watch the NHL season with a different perspective on who you want to make playoffs and who you don't.
So you get to play against some top guys.
Yeah.
Who's out of those? Obviously, you named a handful of legit NHLers. Who was the one at like the younger age where you went, this guy's a savage. He's going to go to the show and be as good as they've turned out.
Probably Ehlers or Drouin because it was my first year, so I was a rookie, and they were on the same line, and they would just fly around the ice, and they'd come down on you on a one-on-one, and you get one chance to swipe at the puck, and if you missed it, they were gone around you. So it was pretty intimidating when they would get the puck and start flying at you. So I definitely have to say one of those two guys, hasn't surprised me with their success.
Something that we don't have over here is training camps, really. Talk me through going to your talk not me through, but talk like the British public through what it's like going to a Quebec Major Junior League training camp, and what sort of preparation goes into getting ready for that, and how many times are you on the ice, how many times you're in the gym, what's the kind of format?
Yeah. Well, you start off with pretty much all the draft picks and invite guys and stuff for the first week, and you just do inter-squad games. So you're playing maybe 2 games a day, kind of one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And you're just playing, there's maybe 80 guys. So yeah, maybe not 80 guys, maybe 70 guys kind of put throughout the team. So they're kind of, the guys who are on the team sometimes get already on the team, will sometimes get to sit. So it's mainly just rookies and new guys playing games. And then they'll cut a bunch of guys at the end of the week. They've got you all in the hotel and kind of all set up. So transport's provided. So you kind of just living the life for a week. And then they kind of narrow it down to maybe 30, 35 guys for the next week. And then you'll go play some other teams that are local. And, they'll give everyone a couple games in live action against other teams to kind of see how you do. And they'll slowly whittle it down until you get your final group of whatever it is, 24 guys, I think it is maybe. And then they have the final day where rosters are set, and there's maybe, I don't know, 28, 29 guys still left hanging around, and you all kind of sit in the room and they'll one by one call guys in. And it's pretty intense process. You feel bad for the guys that come out when you obviously can tell that they haven't made the team. So it's pretty tough to put 16, 17-year-olds through that, but it's an introduction to the way of the business. And if they want to keep playing, it's going to be a lot more of that stuff. So, yeah.
Was I don't know, obviously it's changed a lot since I was younger and since the Q had the notorious tough guys that it used to, but were these boys fucking chucking knucks early in the morning in these games,
Oh,
trying to get their spot? What was that like?
Well, that was the thing. Everyone's there to do their kind of. And coaches come in big camps. They do what you do best. If that's scoring goals, score goals. Don't try and kill someone. If that's hitting and being an energy guy, go and do that. So the fighters here and that would be like, all right, well, where's the fighter on the team? I got to show I can beat him up. So they'd be a fight most games, maybe a couple of just guys trying to show it. They'll mix it up, and often the poor fighter who was on the team last year had to take the most fights because everyone was gunning for his job. So yeah, it obviously wasn't as crazy as it used to be, maybe 20, 30 years ago. But and I know it's definitely not as crazy as it or now as it was back when I was there because they're taking out the game. But yeah, it was some of those games could take a while because gloves kept falling off by accident, I guess you could say.
Go further, go faster, get fitter. Subscribe today. Hurricane e-bikes have a great range of bikes available on the e-bike subscription plans. The Cruiser e-bikes are perfect for beach rides, long distance rides, or just everyday use. The Fat Bike e-bikes look great and can cope with the toughest terrain, perfect for off-road adventures. The hybrids range are perfect for about town, everyday use, and leisurely rides with the family. Take your ride to the next level with the mountain bike and get ready for your next power-assisted adventure. You sports. So what did you study exactly?
I did economics and finance and environmental studies as well. So
Quite a lot of guys get into that. Surprisingly, a lot of hockey players we've interviewed have gone in their economics route. So McGill University. You then went on to feature a couple of times for the Laval Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience, and what was the training camp like for that?
Well, that was we finished our McGill season on the Sunday, and I kind of told my agent I wanted to go pro, maybe for the playoff run or something like that. So just to see what was out there. And Laval was just north of the city, so on the Tuesday night we had wine night with all the boys, and everyone bring out a couple bottles of wine, have some fun. And wake up the next day. I didn't go to class because an early class. So I wake up and my phone's just been blowing up. And I kind of look at this missed calls from my ex-junior coach, from my head coach at McGill, from my agent, from, everyone's trying to get a hold of me. So I call, I think it was my agent back, and he says, like, where you been, man? I've been trying to get a hold of you. Like, you good to go up and play in Laval tonight? Like, someone's been sick. They need like an emergency D, man. So I was like, yeah, for sure. I'll do that. Not as much sleep as I'd like to get, but yeah, I'm not going to pass opportunity up. So I go out there and play the game, and we did well, or I did well, and I think we lost in the shootout. And then they decided to kind of keep me around. So I hung around for the next 5-6 weeks. It was kind of doing school and then traveling up to Laval to practice, and then go on road trips, it was pretty cool to get to hop on the private jets and fly out to Cleveland or wherever we were going, and then come back and try and do some economics homework. So yeah, I was doing that, and then COVID hit about 7 weeks into, kind of 6-7 weeks in. So they obviously canceled the season and stopped it all. And then over the summer, they re-signed me for the next year. And then that was obviously just, we're waiting for everyone to figure out what's happening with COVID. So I don't think we started until January. We had a shortened season. So yeah, that was kind of, then they moved us to the Bell Center where the Canadians play, and did this makeshift dressing room and stuff like that. So it was a bit kind of put together, but we had a shortened season. I got hurt in the second game and didn't play the rest of the season because of concussions. And but yeah, it was pretty cool experience to get to play in the Bell Center, be associated with the Canadians, and got to play with some pretty good hockey players as well, like Cole Caulfield, who just signed his big deal today.
Yeah, huge deal.
I still think that's the team friendly deal.
What a player.
I think that's going to end up being a team friendly deal. That one.
I think it will too.
You know what? Less than 8 sheets per year for 8 years. This guy's a
Hmm.
real deal. He's not, I mean, anywhere near his ceiling either. Like he's only going to continue to get better.
Yeah.
Stud. So obviously, I missed what you said there while my client was ringing me for the fucking fifth time in a row. Um, I want to go back to leaving the queue and taking that opportunity to go to U Sports. Obviously, prior to that, you touched on maybe wanting to go down the NCAA route when you was a bit younger. As soon as you go major junior, for those that don't know, that kind of squashes that eligibility. But you do,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, for every year of major junior, you get a year paid for Canadian university. Is that right?
Yeah, they don't. They give you money towards it, so it depends on your
Right.
costs whether it'll cover it all or not. So, but yeah, each team kind of has different deals. So my dad kind of put a special education deal into my contract when I played junior. So I think I got a little more than you'd normally get, but yeah, they pretty much covered most of it. Everything was kind of covered. So it was, it was a great way to kind of still get my education, still play a high level of hockey in a great city like Montreal, and get that college experience, which is kind of something that is pretty big in North America to kind of go through and enjoy.
Was it always going to be McGill? Was there other schools on the table?
No, well, I was originally actually I was thinking I want to go pro, but my parents were pushing hard in school, and I was kind of thinking between two schools, both based in Montreal. And then some guy tweeted that I'm going to McGill, and it's confirmed. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to kind of McGill then, I guess that's confirmed apparently. But so I don't think I'd even made my decision up then, but I said it's not a bad, it's actually a phenomenal school. It's one of the top ones in Canada. Like I said, in a great city, a great hockey program. I think, they say that like McGill founded hockey or created the game. So they played the first ever game as well and stuff like that. So it's one of the most storied hockey teams in the world. And, it's kind of hard to pass up an opportunity to play for that organization for 4 years.
What was the level of support like for university hockey in Montreal? Was there a lot of people turning out to the games or?
No, it's really poor for the quality of hockey, which is too bad. We'd have one game called Winter Carnival where, you know, we'd pack the rink and, get whatever that rink holds, 3,000, 4,000 kind of thing. So we get that. And in playoffs, we'd, get good crowds, but it was never to the level that like junior crowds would get. And it's pretty much all junior players, just older and bigger and stronger now. So it's kind of something that could definitely grow in terms of, you know, fan attendance in Canada for sure.
Well, the Elite League.
Just like, yeah, same
Oh,
thing.
well, I was going to say the Elite League owners and the Elite League coaches seem to be very happy with the U Sports boys because there's fucking loads of you now. There's
That's the thing.
loads that
It's
have taken
Yeah.
this angle and coming from. Well, it's a good doorway for you boys coming from that league into Europe.
it is. It's I think these are both two leagues that are slept on in terms of talent. And like I know U Sports puts together a team and they go and play the World Juniors before their tournament every year. And the games are close. World Juniors win some, U Sports will win some. So it's you know the World Juniors will sell out 18,000 people for their tournaments, and U Sports gets a couple hundred in some rinks. So it just shows you the lack of not or awareness of how good the hockey is. But to your point, it's true. There tons of U Sports guys come over to the EIHL and do really well, and kind of establish themselves as pro hockey players.
Any of you boys kind of talking about, I don't know, let's say year one, year two into your U Sports career? Are you talking about like, do we want to stay in North America? Is the AHL, is that the dream? Or some of these guys going, you know what, I would like to go traveling. I want to go Germany. I want to go Sweden. I want to try and get, if I can, into Switzerland, Finland, whatever it may be.
I think the dream is to obviously get in the AHL and try and work your way from there, but or the East Coast. But there, it depends on the guy. We play with a guy who my first year who right away he's like, I just want to go to Germany or somewhere like that. Went over, like he flew all the way over for a tryout, ended up making the team in the Dell too, and kind of he's had a good career over here. So some guys just know right away they want to head over. Other guys kind of want to stick it out and see what they can do in North America. So it depends.
Must be tough though, because you talk about, right, you go to the coast. The money's fucking shit. The travel's shit.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, are you? Yeah, you're just on long East Coast, West Coast road trips, lots of swings. Whereas you come to Europe, money's going to be the same, if not better. You got a house, you got a car, you get well looked after. I can see the appeal to not bother going to grind it out in the coast and go and try and do Dell 2. Maybe you get your shot at the Dell. All of a sudden, you're making 85, 90, 100 bags.
Mm-hmm.
Big,
Yeah.
big difference from what you can make in the coast, right?
Yeah, the coast it's pretty capped, but I mean, I guess you view it as it's your shot to the NHL or your shot to the AHL, where you can, if you're doing really where the top guys are making, 3, 400,000 kind of thing. So there are, but those are rare, those contracts. So it's just the guys that come over from the coast just talk about the travel mainly, and just the doing, what's it called? I'm forgetting the term because I haven't had to use it in England, but whatever, it's 3 games in a row. I can't believe I can forget the blank on the term right now, but yeah, like it's just not something that you do in the EIHL, which is really nice. I mean, you understand sometimes you got the Scotland game back down for a home game Sunday, and those can be tough. But over in the coast, like they're driving, 5, 6 hours between each game, doing 3-and-3s, and then you got teams like Newfoundland that are just way out. They're a flight. Their closest game's a flight every single time. So it's just they go on huge road trips, and you're living on buses and away from home for long periods of time. So it's just a grind, like you say, for the travel, and it just wears on you over like a whole season.
You touched on obviously getting your chance with Laval, but then the post-COVID season getting cut short due to concussion. What happened there? Was that impact from a hit or battles in the corner?
Yeah,
How did the conky happen?
yeah. I went to hit a guy, and he just reverse hit me straight into my shoulder and kind of caught my chin, and I felt my legs go really wobbly, and I was right by the bench, and I should have changed, and I didn't because Galchenyuk was wheeling through the neutral zone, regrouping with the puck, so I kind of slid over, and right away I could barely feel my legs, and he kind of danced right through me, went around, put the puck on net. The goalie made the save, but it was like 5 minutes left. We were up by 1. Thankfully, that was the last shift the coach played me just because I got danced, but there was no way I could have gone back out there again. Kind of, especially the speed and talent and physicality they played at that level. It was just, yeah.
How quick in the AHL are they with like the medicals and getting you checked out and making sure you're going to be good before you come back? Obviously, I know concussion protocol is huge across many sports right now due to CTE, head injuries, and stuff like that. Were they bang on it?
Um, Not really because it wasn't a big hit or anything like that. I didn't fall over. It seemed like just a kind of a collision. So no one came running down the bench, and I didn't want to, alert any attention to it in case it was nothing. But then the next day I came in and I was like, I'm not right. So they did everything they could. The COVID obviously had limitations on what they could do in terms of specialists I could see and all that stuff. So they worked the best as they could, and I was seeing physios and chiropractors and head doctors and osteos and stuff like that. So it was, the resources, especially the resources that team have, are almost endless. So it was top notch.
That Laval team, are they well supported in Montreal?
Yeah, well, they're just north of the city.
But I mean, like, is there a lot of Montreal fans that kind of cross over with the affiliation, or?
I think so, yeah. A lot of because it's all the young guys, like all the guys that are meant to be coming up that are down there. So it's kind of cool. They're in the same city, and especially with Montreal not being as good the past couple of years. Laval's kind of been going deep in playoffs, so I know they've been getting sellouts and 10,000, 12,000, whatever that rink holds. So they've been doing pretty well, I think.
Speaking of Laval, it's just rung my bell a little bit. Obviously, you were out there for a long time through juniors and then school and stuff like that. Did you ever get out to any of the LNAH games? The Quebec Senior
No,
League games.
Oh,
no, I
mad.
Those
never did.
fucking beauties just going to town.
Smashing each other to pieces.
Yeah, I know. I got a few buddies who play in the league, but I've never actually been out to watch a game. Which looking back, kind of wish I'd done. But
What
yeah,
there's four
those
tilts
games
and
are
warm
wild.
up. Just fucking guys getting speared in the chin, like stretching the red line and stuff. But the
Yeah,
thing was though, the guys that could play, like the non-fighters, there were some legit hockey players in that league, like absolute studs. Guys that got like 120 points in the queue 3 years in a row and stuff. They're now like
yeah,
30 and they're playing in this league. But like I've spoke to friends that played in it before, and they were like, and we've got a couple of the tough guys on here. It's kind of like number one guy fights number one guy, number two guy fights number two guy,
yeah,
number three guy fights number three guy, whatever. But everybody else plays. Like,
yeah.
like no one, you're not getting the number one guy going out and punching the number one centerman in the face. Like, it's not happening.
No,
Like,
no.
so there's actually some good hockey players out in that league. What do you know of? Like, obviously, you said you know a couple of guys that played out there. What sort of standard are those guys? Good hockey players?
Yeah, they're all guys I played with in the queue or at McGill. But it's more the guys who are kind of done with hockey. They're not going to chase pro. They've got a girlfriend, a wife, kids, or something like that. And they're like, I'm not going to move them down to Toledo or something like that to go play in the East Coast. So they kind of get their job and then do it on the weekends, and like they get paid pretty well, just to go and play a couple games on the weekend. And then I know like fighters get fighting bonuses, and the top scorers will get nice goal bonuses. So they walk away from each weekend making, a nice little paycheck for a side job, and it's doing something they're clearly good at, but just maybe don't have the passion to practice and grind through the weeks for it every single week kind of thing, and have the pro pressure.
Especially if you can't see real good financial upside and you've just finished a four-year degree that's going to give you massive financial upside. I don't know, let's say you're
Hmm.
studying finance or something like that, and you're going to get into a job that's paying you bank. Like you say, do you want to move your missus like down to Toledo, and you might get fucking traded after 3 weeks, and then you might get traded
Exactly.
again, and you're living out of a
Yeah.
suitcase, or you're like, I could just go do that thing that I trained for the last 4 years to do.
Exactly.
Wear a nice suit to work, golf 4 days a week. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's tough. I get why guys would stay in the Quebec League.
hmm yeah, and like you said, it's not like beer league hockey. It's high quality hockey, so you can still challenge yourself and have fun time out and play competitive hockey, which is what most guys want.
What about, obviously we don't have it here, but I know a couple of guys and a couple of friends that have done it. You'd probably see it more often because obviously being from there, but like senior hockey, senior like just I can't remember what men's hockey really. You get it like all
Hmm.
over Canada, different levels. But I look at it, there's like ex NHL guys playing, ex pro guys that have played over here.
Yeah.
What's the kind of like level that acts? I'm hearing some of these boys are making like 5, 6, 700 quid a week for playing like
Yeah.
men's league hockey.
Yeah. So senior A, is especially big out west, like Saskatchewan, Alberta, kind of thing. They really, small towns really kind of get behind their men's teams, and like they're like you say, there's ex NHLers playing in it. There's ex AHL guys, lots of professional guys who come back home after their career at age 40, but still, got a little left in the tank for a game or two, like a week for 16 weeks. And, they pay them well, some guys to come and play. And I think it's funny because guys in our team last year, they're talking about senior A hockey and how their local town did last night and like how they're doing
Yeah.
well. And it's kind of like you're a pro hockey player playing here in England, and you're still keeping track of the senior A team from your local town back home. So that kind of just shows how big it is over there.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's always something that I'd love to ask Canadian guys because you look at some of the names and you're like,
Some big old
they're
names
like,
in there.
yeah, they're legit names playing in these leagues, and the games sound fun, and everybody seems to be having fun. Um, let's bring it over to the UK side. So let's keep it current because we retweeted your tweets last week, where obviously on the back of Scott Conway coming out and having his say. I don't didn't really have a say. He just said the refs suck. It wasn't. Didn't really put too much into it. You kind of broke it down in a little more detail. We read that out a couple of videos back ago, and to be honest. What
Loved
you
it.
said, nailed it. What, can you kind of elaborate a little bit on what you were talking about and give us a little bit more depth into the refereeing situation from somebody who was playing in the league as short time ago as 2 months ago?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, what Conway said, like I fully like during the season, there were multiple times where I was like, I can't wait to just tear these refs apart once I'm gone. Once I can't get fined, I cannot wait just to like let everyone know how bad they are and how annoying it is. And then you realize they're, like I said in my tweet, they are people. They're not trying, well, maybe some of them are trying to get back at you for something you said, but most of them are trying their best out there. They've got other jobs, they've got kids, they've got wives, they've got to go to work the next day when they're roughing up in Manchester, they live in London, they got to drive. Like it's tough. And like I said, without them, we don't have a league. So they are the best that we have in the country, and it's kind of it's what we need to, I think, build them in order to build the league, like I said. And but to the point of it, it's my thing is that I make mistakes every game, obviously. I have really bad games, just like a ref's gonna have bad games. He's gonna make mistakes, he's gonna miss calls. Um, the thing is when they don't, I guess, explain it to you or talk to you about it, or don't come to the bench and talk to the coach about it. They just look at you and tell you to shut up or say, I'm going to give you 10 minutes or Stewie, I'll give you a penalty. Like, it's that arrogance, not arrogance, but that unwillingness to explain yourself. And if you, it's the
Communication's
thing
got
with
to
the
be, it's got to be
communication,
there.
the thing with reffing, and I think like what's kind of investing in it is, like I said, everyone's gonna have their bad games, make mistakes, bad calls, but it's how you manage a game. And managing a game is understanding, you know, this penalty needs to be called in this game, or maybe we're gonna let more stuff go in this game because it's physical game, but it's not dirty. So you kind of let stuff go, but you also need to know how to manage the players, and a lot of that comes down to just communicating with them. And to be fair, I talk to the refs a lot, especially this year. Um, and I think it was better this year in terms of how they would come across. Be like, you know what, Halby, sorry, man, I didn't see that. I saw this. And I said, okay, that's what you saw. That's what you got to call. I'm not asking you to call something you didn't see, but kind of like you got to, I'd say, you watch for it next time. Because this guy's skate or stick went right between my skates, hauled me down as I was going back for a puck. That's a penalty. But if you didn't see it, you can't call it. You explained it to me. I'm okay. That's kind of weird. But it's when they just won't even talk to you. They'll tell you to shut up, tell you to get in the box. They'll just skate away from you. That's when it really, that's what really frustrates players as well because you're not getting any communication. And I think that's
In
just
the
not
old days,
managing
mate,
the game well.
in the old days, that's where your number one fighter, number two fighter, number three fighter comes out because no communication, bullshit calls. That's when that's when it
Exactly.
leads to all the ugly stuff.
Yeah.
Unlike what you said, whereas it's a good hard hitting game, but it's not dirty. The ref puts his whistle in the pocket. The boys, none of the fighters are coming out. We can play hockey like that all day long. It's when you don't call one and then you call the exact same thing down the opposite end. And then next thing, there's like I don't know, a deflected puck that goes out and you call a penalty when it shouldn't have been a penalty. There's 5-on-3. Then the boys are rattled. And then
Yeah.
shit starts to go down. Then you start to lose control. And ultimately, when you lose control of the game, that's going to kill our league. You can't be losing controls of games. Conway didn't do what you did, but he did single out the Scottish refs more so. Would you say he's right in say not the way he singled them out, but singling them out as in they're noticeably worse in Scotland than they are in England or perhaps in Wales? Or is this just opinion on Scott because obviously Belfast have them in the cup group, so they see him a few more times? Like there's different like intangibles at play.
Yeah. I would definitely agree that they're more erratic or destructive up there in terms of they won't call anything all game. So you think that's kind of the bar that's been set. So you start, hooks have been like letting go all game, slash have been letting go all game, and then 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the game, you do something that's happened 10 times already that game and it gets called. And it's just kind of is one of those things that just drives you nuts because there's been a standard that's set and then it changes at the end of the game and it can cost your team 2 points. So it's just we always say whenever we go up there, we say, boys, we know the reffing will be what it is and we can't change it. So there's no yelling at the refs, even though that often happens. Guys just can't keep it in and end up yelling at them. But no getting on the refs, play through it. and let's just try and get out of here with 2 points. But it's definitely a known thing when you go up to any of the Scotland teams, you kind of you try and put some tape over your mouth, and you just kind of hopefully don't get any too bad calls that cost you the game. But it's definitely been there multiple times where just we say like the refs just blow up the game. They just someone will say something to a ref and he'll get upset about it or something, it seems, and then next thing you know, it's 7 straight penalties against one team.
Taking it very personally as opposed to just heat
and
the
maybe
game situation.
It seems like up there that happens a little more often. And I understand where Scott's saying, like, there's definitely a noticeable difference when you go up to Scotland compared to the reffing kind of down in England or over in Cardiff.
Is it actually Scotland itself, or is it a particular club?
I think, well, they rotate refs generally.
Yeah, the refs move around, right?
Yeah, but it would generally be Fife and Dundee is where you kind of expect just some crazy call that kind of throws a wrench into the game or something like that, or just not getting 5 penalties you should and then getting 3 against and giving them a 5-on-3 kind of. It's just like I say, it's the inconsistency that is just, and then of course Danny Stew starts yelling or someone on our team starts yelling, and it just gets so much worse. And it's like, well, that was fun to drive up here for no reason, and have this game just blown wide open for them. Or the thing is, I'm sure the Scottish teams probably feel the same way, where teams come up and the refs blow the game wide open for us and kind of don't give them any calls they feel they deserve. So I think no one's ever going to be perfectly happy with the refereeing in any league you go to. The NHL, I know there's lots of complaints this year about how bad the reffing is in the playoffs. And, that's the top league, should be the top refs, and people aren't happy. So you're never going to get perfect. You're never going to get everyone agreeing on every call. But it does seem that a lot of players do not like the reffing up in Scotland, particularly.
This is what I was going to ask you. Obviously, Scott's been outspoken about it, and now you've come in on the back of him and kind of reaffirmed what he says. What's the talk? Obviously, not publicly, i.e., on Twitter, but what's the talk amongst the players? Is it pretty common knowledge that the refereeing has to improve for this league?
I mean, I've heard guys flat out say, "I'll never play in this league again due to the reffing." So when you hear stuff like that, it should raise awareness that it's not just one guy coming out and saying it. I've heard multiple teammates. I've heard other guys and other teams say it, and it's clearly a thing that the players feel is a lot lower quality than other leagues, which was kind of my reason for saying that we need to invest in it, because like you're losing players due to the reffing, which is something that can be improved. It's it's not, you're not losing players because of the quality of the league, or you're not losing players because of whatever other reason, travel or something like that you just can't change. It's something that can be improved. So it's hopefully the league takes notice of that and kind of put some sort of attempt into helping the refs be better, manage the games. And even if you kind of see that there's progress, it makes it easier on players, and maybe the players lay off them. And obviously the players aren't perfect, because I know we hound the refs and make their jobs miserable, but it's something that you hear a lot around the league, and it's kind of something that I think needs to be, fixed.
So we kind of put a tweet out after yours, and David Sims from Sheffield Steelers, he came out and said, like, where does this investment come from on top of the 250,000 already? And it was kind of just a fucking really mundane, because he didn't follow it up with, for whatever reason. It was just, we put 250 grand towards the referees and officials. Now, if you think how many hundreds of games, thousands of games probably between all of the teams throughout the year, referees everywhere, the money it's not a lot of money, right? Out of that 250 grand, how much do we think's involved in training? Fucking zero. So that's not an investment. That's you paying your bills so that you can have a fucking game. Because if you don't pay these guys, there's no refs, there's no games. So to me, to say that's an investment is slightly far-fetched. We need to maybe
Yeah,
talk about
agreed.
investing that amount on top of those boys getting paid and travel and hotels and whatever else they need to make it work. Like they need to be what was that, Mark? We talked about
The training camp in Budapest.
in Budapest, right? It's a 3-day camp. I don't know if you saw what we shared there. Now have a look at it. It's
Yeah,
legit.
I saw that.
600 euros, so 550 quid an official. I think there's probably 50 officials near Italy. I think we worked out before it was going to cost like 45, 50 grand, yeah? But that was if we sent everybody there. Why can we not pay those 6 guys that are running that camp to come here and put one on here? And even if it costs us 30 grand, even if it costs we got to pay those guys 30 grand and give them a hotel or whatever, you start minimizing that per official and the experience they would get from working with the director of officiating from the NHL, the NHL assistant vice chairman on officiating, guys with fucking 1,500 NHL official games. You're telling me they're going to hang out with those 3 dudes, plus the other guys they've got there, IIHF head referees and stuff like that. They're not going to learn some shit and bring that back to our league. And if it costs us 50 grand, if it costs us 30 grand,
It's an investment.
we're investing in
to boost the
ourselves.
league.
Well, work it out this way: 3 or 4 grand a club to send every official. Like, it's not that much on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I know they're going to come back and say bottom line is money's money. Well, it's very short-sighted because, okay, let's compare it then. So you've played in the AHL, you've played in the Ontario Junior Hockey League, you've played in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and you've played in U Sports. Talk us through what the officiating's like at each of those levels.
The officiating in the EIHL is the worst out of every league I've played in.
Okay.
There you go. That sums up right up.
Clears that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any
So
officials that stand out of being good for you then? That you go, obviously we've just seen Liam. He's gone off and ref the bronze medal game at the Worlds. He's obviously a good official. Was there any for you that you go, that guy like runs a good game? He talks well.
Not great with their names. But to me, it's not as much being a good official. It's just communicating. I like the refs that'll communicate with me and tell me what they saw. And like I said, if that's what you saw, that's what you got to call. But Liam is generally. I don't want to say the guy. I'd better at saying the guys I think are bad. But I don't want to say names. But I'm not great with their names, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head who I like. If you gave me their pictures, I'd be able to point at them. But yeah, I can't really come up with their names right now off the top of my head. But back
I thought as captain, you would have that shit dialed in. You'd know.
I know some of them.
What football team they support and all that shit.
I know. What's his face? One of the Scottish refs up in Dundee. He normally does. I know he's a big Ranger supporter. So I often ask him how the Rangers are doing and how he thinks what their chances are of winning a trophy or two, but that never apparently gets me very far with them because I often end up in the box up there. So, but back to your point on, I didn't know. I saw your tweet on the Budapest reffing conference, and it sounds phenomenal. Like you get that much experience and knowledge in a room, and I mean it's not that much money if you think about it per guy, and like I know you say it, money is it's a big bill to send every ref. Maybe you don't send every ref. Maybe you do alternate. So one year you send half the refs, the other year you send the other half. Maybe you bring them over. But I think the biggest thing is it's an investment. You're not putting it in to get nothing back. You put it in and you keep putting in. You're investing in the league. Hopefully then your refs get better. You draw better talented players. You have a better high quality of play. You then can draw more fans. You can then have bigger stadiums in rinks like maybe Guildford or maybe Coventry, maybe Match, things like that. Maybe the league grows and all of a sudden you've got more money coming in. That's what investing is. You put money in to get money back. And if you don't want to invest, then, things often don't grow back. And if you don't want to invest, then, things often don't grow. So it is a risk that you put it in and it doesn't happen. But if the owners are happy with the way things are right now, which, it seems like they are, then there's no need to invest. But if you want to see the league grow and become, a better respected league across Europe, then it's something that you're going to have to do. And it ultimately will just come down to the owners and whether they want to invest in the reffing and potentially help the league get better and rise to, a better spot in the European standings for the leagues. Then that's something they're going to have to do.
Let's do a hypothetical one here then. All of you, every single one of you players that laced up in the Elite League last year, you get a blank ballot, anonymous. Does the standard of the officiating need to be improved? And all that's on that box is yes and no. Let's say, for argument's sake, 10 teams, 22 guys, there's 220 players, 10 coaches, 2 assistants. Let's call it 260 guys from that. Or what are we saying those numbers are on that anonymous that officiating? Are we going 220? Are we going higher? Are we going lower?
I mean, hypothetically, I'd probably say like 250. It's probably, I'd say, one guy per team who's, nice and
Doesn't give a shit,
doesn't really take penalties. But I'm just looking at our team. I don't think I had one guy kind of be like, hey man, like the refs are like, they're good enough for this league.
Well, I hope the Elite League are listening and taking it on board, man, because this isn't like a target hit piece or anything of that. Everyone here on this call wants the growth of the Elite League, and I just hope
you need the feedback, don't you? You need the feedback from players like yourself and Scott Conway. This is vital for this information to actually be out there, because we don't know how much gets said behind the scenes, and the only way sort of the leagues really listen is when we sort of put something out there publicly.
Yeah, like you said, in no way am I targeting the refs or trying to down. Like I said in my tweet, I want to help the refs to help the league. That's all we all want, is a better league, better quality. But it is hard during seasons and when you're a player under contract, because if you say the wrong thing about the refs, you can be losing some of your paycheck. So it's a disincentive to speak up, and those are the players who are actually dealing with the refs and having the night to night interactions. And the fact that me and Scott are now both out the league for next year, we have a little more free reign to actually come out and say how we feel and how a lot of other players feel. And in no way, like I say, am I trying to attack and say that they suck, because like I said, they have good games. It's not every game they're bad, and I'm not saying they're bad people and they're trying to screw the league over, but I think that they just, that we need to look at it if we want the league to grow, which is what my main point is. If we want the league to grow, it's something that will need to be addressed.
Spot on.
Can't say fairer than that. Let's move away from the officials, but keep it in the UK. Obviously, you come over to Coventry after 4 years, and obviously a little cup of coffee in Laval. How did Danny get you across there? And then how did you find like moving to the city and getting your first taste of the Elite League? Did you think it was like a good standard?
Yeah. So really, I came to Coventry because I didn't have many offers from anywhere. Like across Europe, even in the EIHL, I think Nottingham would give me an offer, but I turned it down and then came back later and they had nothing. And I don't think a single of the team was making an offer my first year. If I may have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it was. And then, when we got here, I kind of got one of my buddies to sign on as well with Stewie. So Ryan Penny, who moved to Cardiff last year. So we kind of came over together and we're living together. So we kind of had each other to go through, moving away to a new country. But it wasn't like it was anything really crazy to me, because, we'd come back every year. I've been here in England tons of times in my life. So it wasn't like I was shocked by the culture or anything like that. But it was kind of cool to, I've never been to Coventry and, see what it's like, and the differences, and having to drive on the other side and learn manual at the same time. That was always exciting. I hated when practice ended, because that means I'd have to get back in the car and drive home. That was always super stressful, and the boys were actually going to get me a big L sticker to stick on my car, just so people would, stop honking at me and stuff like that. But yeah, that was kind of how I came over, and my first experiences, playing in the UK. And the level of hockey was, way better than I thought. Like I said, it's a slept on league. you kind of just, I don't know, it doesn't get much recognition in Europe, especially in North America. People don't think too highly of it, which is a shame because there's good players and there's good, it's great speed, it's good quality, there's talent. Um, so it definitely surprised me at kind of the pace, the physicality as well, and all of it. Even like the fans, I was surprised at the support that each team kind of gets, even the smaller teams, like Scotland or I guess kind of like Manchester or us in the smaller barns. It can get loud in there when the games get intense and back and forth. So it was a pleasant surprise when I came over.
Well, I always love to ask this of the North Americans when they came over. What's your first experience getting to play with the British boys? Because the banter's probably a little bit different, and they're generally fun.
Yeah, they we had some funny Brits on our team. Who not that they don't care about hockey, but they obviously love it and work just as hard, but they seem to have a little different perspective towards hockey, and kind of they're a lot more like, let's have a fun time, if that makes sense. And like that's not saying that, like, again, they don't care or they're not invested, but they're often the ones in the room cracking the jokes and playing the pranks and mixing it up. So it was definitely fun just to kind of see that side of, because like you say, Canadian hockey players, a lot of us are the same. So you kind of see these guys who've grown up in England, but also grown up playing hockey, and kind of the similarities they have in, their mannerisms, but also the differences they kind of have. So it's pretty funny.
You played with Joey Rats in your first year. Last year, we heard the announcement that he was battling testicular cancer. He was actually one of the things that we donated some of the money from our charity game to him. Have you had any contact with Joey? I know he put like an update out a little while back, and he's still battling through this thing. So shout out to him. Have you had
Hmm.
any kind of contact and any update on how he's doing?
Yeah, a little. Well, I mean, for starters, the fact, like, I remember towards the end of the season, he was kind of, I'm tired, I'm worn out, I feel drained, like, I don't know what it is. And kind of everyone's like, oh, like, whatever. And it kind of went on for like a couple months, and finds out he's got testicular cancer. And it's like, well, like, this guy was grinding through the end of the season, with that going on, which is, tip your cap to that, just to kind of push through that, and how he must have felt is phenomenal. But in terms of how he's doing, I know he's made progress.
Good.
I'm pretty sure he's done his chemo treatments, and he's kind of bounced back pretty well from it, from what I've heard. And I'm speaking off the top of my head here, so his update may have more information, but I'm pretty sure um, one of the tumors is gone completely, and another one is like stable, last I heard.
Good.
So
Yeah.
from what I heard, though, it was definitely heading in the right direction, which is um phenomenal here. And I would like to shout out to the EIHL fans. My dad pointed out when you went to his GoFundMe or whatever it was, and you kind of saw fans from across the league donating. It wasn't just Coventry fans; it was Cardiff fans, it was Sheffield fans, Nottingham fans, Manchester. Like, It was phenomenal just to see the support from the league, supporting a player who didn't even play for them, and giving him a little donations to try and help him get through something that's pretty tough thing to get through. So I think that was pretty cool for all the fans of that. So I tip my cap to all the fans who donated for that.
Talk about a hockey guy fucking playing the rest of the year with testicular cancer. I had a guy who's
Yeah,
like breaking with broken
Wow.
thumbs and shit. This
I
dude
know.
straight out just played 2 months with testicular cancer. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What a
So
straight savage. Like, if one guy can beat it, it's probably the guy that can play 2 months of a professional ice hockey season. That's wild, man. That is so wild. Shout out, Joey. Hope
mhm.
it's going well, my man.
Yeah.
All the best to you and to your family. I believe the GoFundMe is still live, so if it is, we'll stick it in the comment section below here, and you'll be able to donate if you wish. Let's move on to your second season in Coventry. Was it a case of no one wanted you still after your 31 points, or was there a few more offers on the table and you decided to go back with our boy Stewie there?
Yeah, I had a few more offers that summer, so it was tough making a decision. Just kind of because it was a little tough the way we ended in Coventry last year. We slipped at the bottom, and then there were just some tough days towards the end of the season there. But ultimately, I kind of just decided that I'd stay loyal to the team that gave me my shot when no one else really wanted to give me a contract last year. So, and I really liked Stewie. Loved playing for him. I love kind of the culture he's built around that team, and I knew I'd have a big role on the team. If you go to a Belfast or one of the other teams, they can bring in some big names too. So you might get bumped down the order a bit in terms of playing time and special teams. So I knew what I was going to get in Coventry, and I decided to go back to it, and I'm glad I did because phenomenal season. The guys were unreal. It was a joy to go to the rink every day. We had a lot of success. I mean, one of the best seasons Coventry's had in the past. I think past 10, 15 years, one of the best seasons we've had in terms of points. But yeah, the main thing is enjoying the guys you play with and enjoying going to the rink every day, because that's what makes the seasons fun. And Stewie does a great job in bringing guys in that are good team guys and good hockey players as well. And like I said, it was an absolute blast this year. So really glad I went back.
What was it like for you, not only first year, second year, whatever, coming over and all of a sudden, all right, yeah, people kind of care about the playoffs, but you've come from this North American thing where like there's playoffs or nothing, and now like you lose in Dundee on Tuesday on a fucking September. You're like, okay, league title's over, like because you've lost like a shitty game that shouldn't mean anything. But when you're like, we saw it with Sheffield and Belfast, Cardiff, Guildford, whoever it was, you guys were up the top for a bit. 1-2 bad performances, now you're fourth. Now you're sixth. Like,
yeah,
what was it like switching from like the playoff mentality of the longer format to come in here, and the league is ideally the one that the teams want to win?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'll admit it is really weird. Like you say, you lose that game in October in Fife or something like that, or at home, and you're like, some of the Brits or guys have been just like, well, like that's a much bigger loss than you think it is, and so it's kind of hard to wrap your head around it. Like that, there's no off days. In terms of there's no easy games. You can't. Oh well, as long we're still in second place, we still got home ice as well. No, the league's kind of the thing that matters. So it was definitely an adjustment trying to not motivate yourself, but understand the importance in every single regular season game, whether it was a random Wednesday or, hosting Belfast at home on a Sunday kind of thing. They're all just as important.
What was your favorite arena to play in the UK? Was you really going to ask that?
I was literally about to ask that, yeah.
Oh, really?
Favorite arena to play in or win in?
I imagine it's both.
Both, yeah.
Wow.
I would go. It's got to be Belfast for playing and Sheffield for winning.
Sheffield for.
It's got to be that, isn't it? It's got to be Belfast for playing and Sheffield for winning, sticking it right up 9,500 orange noses.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing better than winning in Sheffield, and just knowing that you've made some of those fans' days just slightly a little bit worse. But no, it's all fun and games. But yeah, I mean, Belfast is a really nice facility and nice rink. They draw great crowds. I like Nottingham. Same thing. It's good ice too. There are big benches, bright lights. So those are the big three. But definitely, I don't know. I really did enjoy winning in Belfast too. Yeah, but Sheffield, I think it's something about beating Sheffield in Sheffield.
You boys started the beginning of the fucking juggernaut. You went over. You beat them, then Manchester beat them, and then they sacked everybody and came in with like 8 new guys, and Belfast just went on a tear. Like, I think they lost 2 or 3 games at home, and it was that
something
stretch.
Like that, yeah.
You boys won, Manchester won. Whoever, I think Manchester might have beaten twice.
They did. They went in there and beat them twice. I remember
so they just went, right, you guys are done. Let's bring in some new players.
Yeah.
The haves and the have-nots of the league. How much do you notice that as a player?
Yeah, I mean, you understand that some teams have bigger budgets and the ability to just cut guys and eat the loss on their visas and their flights and their housing and everything, and can just bring in another guy for a big contract from another league in Europe or North America. And like Stewie often says in Coventry, this is pretty much what we got, boys. Maybe we'll bring one or two guys in if injuries or you really got to screw up in Coventry to get the boot. So it's kind of different but it's a nice thing because that even if you're in a slump, you're not getting sent home. Whereas in Belfast, guys maybe haven't scored in 5-6 games, and all of a sudden they're holding that stick a little tighter and getting more nervous out there. And so I think it obviously has the pros because you can bring in great players, but it also comes with a lot of added pressure for those players that you bring in. So it's it's two-edged sword.
Was there a particular Brit that caught your eye in your 2 years playing in the Elite League?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of I think Waller is a vastly underused player. I mean, you play against him and he doesn't get, he's on the second unit and third line, sometimes fourth line. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then I saw him at GB and just watched him in games, watched him in practice. And you're like, the speed this kid has, the skill he has, I think he just needs maybe to go to a team where he's gonna be the number one guy, and just get that confidence of being the guy where everything runs through on the power play. Maybe he will be for Pete, but just to kind of have that confidence instilled in that he is kind of, as good as he is. And so I'd say he's probably caught my eye in terms of the most underused Brit, I think, in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, then you've got top players you've got Dowd, you got Conway, you got those guys that just consistently year in, year out are just at the top of the league in terms of points and production. So it's I mean, there's a lot of hidden good players in this league that you kind of just stay home and could probably be playing in other leagues with bigger reputation leagues and maybe doing a little better, but they choose to kind of stay home. And actually another that surprised me was O'Connor.
I was about to ask you about Oki.
Yeah.
Oki's he's so smart. Just sees the game differently. And because first year he's in Cardiff for a bit and then he left. And then this year seeing him in Guildford, and we played them 11 times or whatever it was this year. So saw a lot of him and just kind of, just seeing the way he sees the game and everything seems nice and slow for him. It just, that was something that surprised me this year, was how under control he was most of the time.
Obviously, you got to play with him in GB. Did you get to hang out much with Oki at all?
Yeah.
Tell you any stories about his time in Kazakhstan?
I might have enough stories from Oki from that week to write a book now, but
he's been on the podcast 4 times, mate. The man's got
he's
stories
phenomenal.
for days.
We'd sit down for dinner, and dinner would end, and we'd start asking questions and telling stories, and it'd be an hour and a half later, the place would be empty, and it'd just be 4 of us at our table, just mainly listen to him go through stories of when I was in this league, when I was over here, this guy, that guy. So it was, he's a great time. Could sit and listen and talk for a while.
Oh man, he's told some great stories on this pod.
Great guy.
If you're new here, go back into our library right now. Check out YouTube, probably the easiest. We've got some Ben O'Connor clips on there. Him talking about his time in Kazakhstan, about the Russian gas, about all sorts of stuff. Absolutely hilarious. The man can tell stories. Right, it's traditional when you make your debut, you get your first cap for GB, the senior boys, Oki, Dowdy and all that, Jono, they make you do a bit of an initiation. I believe you normally have to sing the national anthem amongst some other bits. What did you boys have to do this year?
Yeah, I think they're pretty gentle on us. I was expecting something a little worse, but it was just they had 5 of us stand up and sing the national anthem, and some guys didn't exactly sing the loudest, and I think other guys sang a little louder to pick up the lack of not enthusiasm, but the lack of volume from some guys. So I think it was dominated by a few guys, while a couple of guys were the backup singers, but it wasn't too bad. We got a round of applause, so couldn't have been that bad. The hotel staff seemed to appreciate it as well. So
Oh,
all fun and
they
games.
do it in front of everybody, eh?
Yeah, we did have to do it down at dinner. I think Poland might have been there as well. I think, or maybe maybe they were and they'd left. I don't know, but yeah, it was. I'm not a big singer, so thankfully I didn't have to do it alone. That's all I was happy about.
Oh yeah, that's a tough go.
Hmm.
What was it like? What was it like being captained by the British hockey legend in John O'Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, he's phenomenal. Well, actually, I'll say the first kind of interaction I had with him, you play against him and you whack him a couple times in the back of the legs, you do all that stuff. But we were going to pictures and he kind of had his shoulder pads on, and these things are destroyed. They're held together by string and duct tape, and I don't know what else is holding them. Spider webs are probably helping hold them together. These things are ancient. And I said to him, I was like, John, they can't buy you new shoulder pads in Sheffield. He goes, no, I was 13. He said, my mom got me these, and she said, these have to last. So he's gone, and he's been wearing the same shoulder pads since he was 13. So it was kind of, the first time I had a little chat with him, and he's a great guy, great leader. He's Britain's all-time games, I think he is.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I mean that's an incredible feat itself. So it was 116 or whatever it was, something
savage.
Especially when it's mainly 5 games a year, because he's been in the lower divisions mainly and a couple Olympic qualifiers. But to get to that number, it just says so much about him, and then just in the dressing room, just great leader, leads by example out on the ice, always moving his feet, always hunting down pucks on the forecheck. He's like a dog chasing a ball. He just sees a puck in the corner and off he goes after it. And but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good leaders on GB with him. Lots of kind of Oki, Mizey, Davey, Dowd, even like Bouncy. There's lots of guys who have been there for a while that have been through it all and kind of help him out. But yeah, like you said, he's top class kind of guy. So it's kind of happy for him that he kind of gets to retire on the way he did, but sad to kind of see that he won't be around next year in the dressing room, which is too bad.
Here's a question for you then. So we've speculated, and what better getting someone who has been in amongst the mix? Who's the next GB captain? Fucking hard question, man. I think that might be the hardest question on the podcast at this moment.
I don't know.
Because right, you gotta think they give it to Jono like 11 years ago. So he was 20. I think the first time he wore the C, he was like 22, 23, and then they took it off him for a season, and then they gave it back, and obviously we've had COVID in between, but basically he wore the fucking C forever since a young pup.
Mm-hmm.
Do they go down a younger route, or do they go to an Oki? You might even be in the mix with your C experience? Like,
I think they go. I gotta go with my D partner here, Richie. I think he's how long has he been a captain in Cardiff for?
Yeah, he's a leader from forever.
He is phenomenal, and he's just such like a calm, composing presence on the back end. That's just an absolute anchor. I love playing with him. Oh, I was honored that even Nielsen came up to me. He's like, "Oh, you got lucky, eh, Halbs? You get to play with Richie." I was like, "I ain't complaining." But he's phenomenal. So I think you probably would. But I think I would expect him to at least be in the short list of names that would be up for it. And then who knows? I don't know how much longer he plans on playing. But maybe by that time, then one of the younger guys is kind of matured, so it kind of would then be able to give maybe one of the younger guys kind of the C in a couple of years or whatever Richie wants to play. But that would kind of be what I would envision, but it's not my decision.
I don't see a single GB fan being disappointed if Mark Richardson's named the next captain.
If
anybody complains, they don't know what they're fucking talking about.
Yeah, he's this is coming from a guy who's been playing against him for 2 years, in the Challenge Cup regular season, seeing him all the time, but he's a world-class guy. So
yeah, big beauty. Let's touch on the coaching stuff, because obviously when we do these things, we generally talk about players, but big personalities behind the bench. You had Corey Nielsen joining, Adam Keefe and Pete Russell. What's it like for you getting to play for, well, at the time, opposing coaches in Keith and Nielsen, and then obviously Pete being the DL as well, getting to play for like different coaches?
Yeah. Well, Keith actually wasn't there. It was Chuck,
Oh, of course he
who
wasn't.
we
Yeah,
brought over.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously we had Corey Nielsen on the back end, and we have Dale Keno and Coventry. And I'll say they're very different personalities, coaching styles, everything. So it was a bit of an adjustment, having to not deal with Corey, but getting to work with Corey kind of back there. And a couple of practices, he'd get on my case and threaten me with some things and stuff like that. And I'd kind of be like, oh, I haven't been threatened in a while to lose my power play time or lose ice time or anything like that. So he's definitely a harder coach and he'll ride you, but I think that's just because he expects big things from you, and that's his way of getting it out of you. So it was funny though. He's always got some little comment to throw during a game, and whether it's at the refs, at the other team, or even at his own decor, he'll like to chirp his own decor too. So I liked him. I got on pretty well with him, and um, I think he's an acquired taste for some. But I enjoyed playing for him, and for Pete, I think what he's done with the GB program and over in Germany speaks for itself. He's a great coach. He's coaching winning teams. So I think that's really all that needs to be said about him. I really, really enjoy working with him and got on well with him. And then I think Chuck he was a great addition to kind of bring onto GB, and he's really good on the video side of things and analyzing games and picking stuff out. So I think he kind of gave us a huge boost and advantage. And they, like I said, you win a gold medal. That everything not everything, but a lot of things must have gone your way. And I think our coaching staff was phenomenal for that tournament.
Guys and girls, you have to excuse my phone going crazy during this interview. It never happens, but for some reason it's on silent and it's not on silent apparently. A few more kind of cheesy ones to finish us off here. We'd like to do. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did your move to Innsbruck come about? So now you've come to my neck of the woods. So have you been to Austria before at all?
No, I've never been. So I've heard it's slightly nicer than Coventry from what people have said in terms of just the scenery, maybe. That's no shot at Coventry. That's just it's a beautiful place, I've heard. The truth. No, it's a beautiful place, I've heard, with the mountains and the villages and skiing and kind of that nice big river running through it. So I'm looking forward to going there, and like you say, it's a beautiful part of the world, and it'd be cool to kind of travel around there and see what it's like.
Do you know many players, or do you know of anyone that's in the league?
I don't know anyone on the team. I've reached out to one or two, or I guess they've reached out to me, just welcome me and kind of tell me what to expect. But even in the league, I was trying to think through the other day who I know, and I know of guys and I've played against guys, but the guys who I actually kind of would talk to, after the game, I don't know of anyone right now. So that may change. Some guys may sign that I played with before, over there, because teams aren't done signing all their players yet. But yeah, I don't really think I know anyone as of now in the league.
It's supposed to be a great spot though. We're gonna be coming out to check out one of your games this year for sure.
Well, let me know.
Well, so as part of this YouTube thing, we're going to be going across and checking out games in like the Dell, in Austria, in Hungary. Kind of just bring a bit of travel to the YouTube. Otherwise, it's just us sitting, talking, shooting shit all the time. So just to kind of mix it up, but it'd be nice to be able to touch base with some former guests. By this point, that would be yourself, and be able to see how you're doing. Let's wrap with some cheesy ones. Best player you've ever played with or against?
I would say McDavid, but we were young, so that didn't really count. Even though he's 2 years younger, and we'd call him up to practice with us for a year. He'd come up most practices, and he was the best player on the ice. We were 11, he was 9, so he was still kind of dominating us at that point, which was embarrassing. But that's kind of cheesy. I don't know. In the summer, Toronto's got a big hub of guys, so like you skate with Marner and Tavares and guys like that throughout the summer. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I guess the list is kind of long. It'd be hard to pick just one guy.
Best or most influential coach of your career?
I'd have to say my junior coach, and then coach again in Laval, Joel Bouchard.
Okay, we got to play for him twice. Let's
Yeah.
let's go with the toughest guy you've ever played with or against.
Some of them were just crazy. I didn't even know if they were tough. They were just nuts.
Just lunatics.
Toughest guy. I don't really know. I mean, there was a guy in the queue whose name was Halabi. I think he had like 35 fights one year in 60 games. And that was when they're trying to phase fighting out. Um, yeah, even who do we, yeah. Oh, I mean, I played Pizzetta for the Canadians. He's a tough kid.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, he can chuck him. So yeah, I guess I'll go with Pez.
Right, and finally, we're gonna ask you for a story for the boys to finish us off. Anything from any of the places you played, any of the spots, something funny, something that happened to you, something that happened to one of your boys. Could be anything, but just let you go to the well.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I guess I won't say names in this one, but um, so we'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We had school in the mornings in junior, but Tuesday night was half price movie night. So we would go half price movies, and then that would end around 5, 6, and we'd kind of be wondering what else to do that night. And then it was often $2 drinks downtown Montreal. So one of our buddies lived down there, so we'd kind of go down to his place and often go out. And so we did that, and then at the end of the night, we're kind of all coming out, and we're going to crash at his place and get back up to school for 9 o'clock the next morning. So we're kind of coming out, and one of our buddies spits on the ground, and a bunch of cops come over and start getting in his face and actually arrest him for it, which I thought was quite ridiculous. But anyways, so they arrest him, they throw him in the back of the cop car. He's like, "Do you know who I am? You don't know who I am." Kind of giving it to him and stuff like that. His brother's trying to like help get him out. Another guy on the team who was a Euro, he turns and just runs down the street the opposite direction. Just takes off. And I'm like, okay, well, we got one guy in the back of a cop car. We got another guy who doesn't know Montreal and just ran off in the wrong direction. And it was like, pretty late in the 3, 4 in the morning, probably just closed. And we got school at 9 o'clock the next day. And we're like, all right, so we're in a bit of a pickle. So me and the two other guys, like, okay, we'll go back to the house and we'll figure it out from there. So we hop in a cab and we're driving back, and like the house was a good 15 minutes from where we were. So we're kind of driving for maybe 5, 10 minutes. And we see this guy like sleeping against the wall in the snow. This is like Montreal in February, mind you. So it's like minus 25 out. And the taxi driver goes, "Oh, that guy's having a rough night, isn't he?" And then we like as we're passing, we're like, "Oh, that's our buddy. No way." Like the guy who just turned and ran off. So we like jump out the cab, we grab him, we throw him in the thing. We're like, "Man, what are you thinking?" He was like, "Oh, I thought they're gonna deport me." He's like, I didn't think they'd like let me stay in the country." So he just ran for his life thinking he was gonna get sent back home. So we get him, throw him in the car. I end up walking because we weren't too far from the house. And as I'm walking, as this guy's walking down the street the other direction to me, and kind of, it's late at night. I was like, oh, what's this guy like? He crossed over the street when I crossed over the street as well. Eventually, I get close enough, and I see it's my buddy who'd been arrested. And he's like, I was like, oh my, I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, they drove me around for like 20 minutes and just kicked me out on the side of the street and said, don't do it again. So we got him. We walked back to the house. We walked in with him. It was, I don't know, at that point, it was maybe 5:30. And, the boys were all like, big reunion, all the boys together. Had like, an hour's sleep before we had to get back up, hop in the car, drive back up to the rink for school. Showed up for school, just no one even bothered pulling their laptops. We all just slept on the couches and stuff like that. And then had practice. And yeah, so we went from having one guy arrested and one guy lost, 4 hours before class started to getting everyone back together and up to school in time. So it was that was a night I thought we were going to get in a lot more trouble than we did.
The coaches or management ever find out?
I don't think they ever did.
Oh,
Well,
did
they
now.
never told us.
They-
about it,
they
but
did now.
Yeah,
I think without you giving names away, whoever the brothers are, the coaches are going to be like, it was these guys.
Yeah. Well, maybe, but yeah, it was that was a bit dodgy for a second there, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that we could go through, but I'm sure we got time limits on this.
Oh yeah, it's just all the edits and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But this has been great fun. I've loved
fun.
it. We'll definitely get you on when we come to Austria next year. We look forward to catching some of your games, and hopefully you're going to be sticking around the GB setup and you're going to help us stay in that top pool next year.
I hope so.
This has been great fun, guys and girls. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like these videos, share it with your friends, and we will see you for another episode very, very soon. Peace.
Peace.